Greetings my friends and welcome to another brand new Nations Guide video, and today we are looking at France. I've had a specific request here from a number of people whether I do a French sort of Nations Guide. I will be doing a French Let's Play eventually, but that's probably some way off in the distance. We've got quite a lot of going on at the moment, but I've had a specific request for a Nations Guide of France, and so today my friends I am going to complete that request. And if anybody else has got any requests for any other nation guides I'd like to see, then please always, my friends, put your comments down below, and I will do my utmost, I really will, to try and get them out there for you. So let's have a look at where we start off first. Well, let's have a look at, first of all, what regions, what territory you get as France, so that we can just have that sort of basic sort of overall strategy. We can form it. You can see where you can, what lands you have, where you can strike, the strategy you can form based on all the lands you have. So of course you start here with the absolute heart here of France, Paris, France itself. Look at the size of this. You have a massive region to start with, probably one of the single largest regions, sort of a single region as it were, in the entire campaign. It is absolutely massive, with a huge amount of potential here for growth from the economy. You really do have a massive amount of economic potential here. And you also start as well with some really good trading ports here. This one down in Marseille. You have this one here, Le Havre, which is really a monstrous trade port here. It really is crucial to the sort of the economic health, as it were, of France. It really is very, very vital. You keep Le Havre open for business as much as you can, because of course you've got Britain here across the sort of English Channel, but we'll get into that in a moment. So as you can see, we've got Paris, we've got France here, the absolute heart here of the empire. Then we have Strasbourg here. Strasbourg sort of bordering Stuttgart, Rhineland and Brussels here, Flanders. And it really is sort of a strange sort of setup here in terms of what you start with sort of Strasbourg here, Alsace-Lorraine. Sort of, because of course it is adjoining France here, but of course you immediately sort of thrust into the sort of a semicircle here of potential allies, but also potential foes as well. So you have to be very careful what you're doing here, trying to sort of build up Strasbourg. But again, it does have some good potential here, particularly this minefield, an abundant mine as well here, already pulling in a substantial amount here for the region wealth. 1400, nothing to be sniffed at all there, and really the potential to explode that in the future up to 1600 when you can upgrade that there to like the full potential of the mine, a steam pumped iron mine. And you've also got this, Strasbourg is fortunate to have a settlement fortification around it already, which is pretty rare actually to have a town of this size to have settlement around it, fortifications around it. And you've also got a fort. So again, it really is an area that you can absolutely sort of really push the economics, but you can also dig in quite hard here, and you can probably fight a huge amount of battles here. If you were able to draw any enemies into this region here, you would find them being stuck in this region trying to batter their way into Strasbourg, and indeed the fort here, Fort Neuf-Briach here, really they would have a difficult time, especially if you had some good troops here able to dig in and hold on for a long time. And of course you've got the France here, the sort of the motherland here, able to supply you very quickly, because of course you've got the roads already leading through from Paris here all the way through Nantes here and then into Strasbourg itself. And as you can see, the infrastructure here is already pretty good. Got basic roads, but you can upgrade. Excuse me, my friends. And again, the roads lead out as well to other nations. We'll be looking at the sort of diplomatic status as well soon. So that's pretty much what you've got here in Europe. You've got a huge amount. Now you've got 8 territories. So of course 2 of them are here in Europe, and the main one here of course in France. But the rest of your territories are actually in the Americas. This is where the majority of sort of the French Empire, the majority of its income comes from, and that is North America, Canada, and also the Caribbean down here in the Windward Islands, and also right down here in the West Atlantic is here, French Guiana. But first of all, we're going to have a look at what you have here, up here in sort of North America and Canada. As you can see, the main centre here, the real powerhouse here of French sort of domination here is Quebec here in Canada. This really is the absolute beating heart here of your sort of your territories overseas, your overseas territories, it really does have the potential to be a huge, huge economic, military and production centre. And that is vital for being able to hold on and indeed expand sort of French influence in this entire region. It really is. You're going to find yourself having to fight quite a few wars here, because you'll have the native Indians, you'll have sort of British interests in the 13 colonies looking to try and take these territories back off you. But if you do this right, if you plan your strategy right, if you use the resources you have, you really can take a good amount of America before particularly the British and even the Spanish, dare I say, really have time to really do anything about it. So look, so you've got Quebec here again, not starting off with anything sort of brilliant here, but already you want to try and get these up quickly as possible. Definitely get the magistrates into a governor's residence. Definitely get the barracks up as quickly as you can to get those sort of colonial line infantry and also the colonial light cavalry up and running here. Get the cannon foundry to build the cannons in place. So this, you want to make this your priority. Quebec must be where all of the sort of infantry, where all the army, the economy spreads out from Quebec out into the sort of outer reaches of your sort of empire here in the Americas and the Caribbean. So again, we've got Montreal down here. Again, we've got a pretty decent force down here for Montreal, but again, you can build Montreal up, getting the governor's residence up, giving you that additional bonus in income, and also giving you access to some native units as well, which should definitely come in handy here. It really will. And Ottawa Scouts are pretty fantastic scouts to have. They really are a real elite unit here. They can definitely help you in your skirmishes with potentially the Iroquois, or even, dare I say, the Cherokee nations. And you've got the Huron here on your sort of, your western flank, as it were. And you've also got Arcadia here, Fort Nashwack. Again, you've got mines here, which is excellent to have. Like 1,250 to town wealth. You've got a port here at Tadoussac here. Again, bring in not a massive amount, but again, once this increases, particularly here with this mine, you can already create an iron mine 875 here. You can start construction on that. You've got fur traders here, which do bring in a huge amount of money. They really do, especially to Europe. Europe does like its furs. And again, you've got the farms, of course, standard farm, being able to build that up to have food so that we don't have that food shortages. And again, here you can build farms here in Upper Canada, Montreal, and again a fur trader here, because furs really are, also they may not look a lot here, there's only 12 here, but the sheer amount, the more you can get out of these furs, trust me, Europe will absolutely take every single fur you can produce, and it will bring in a substantial amount of money. And again, you've got the potential here for sort of a logging camp once you've got machine tools, and again that's going to bring in a decent amount here as well. You've got Fort Nashwack here, Arcadia here, you've got the mine, you've got the farm, and in the future you will have Louisbourg here, which will be an important port for you. Then you have here, in sort of the east here, again looking at the furs, and also another important port here in St. John's Trading Post. You've got Newfoundland here, Pleasance or Plaisance here. Excuse my pronunciations, my friends. I really don't mean to butcher these sort of pronunciations. Really do, apologise for that. And again, you've got the logging camp here, which is bringing in 1,000 to the region. So you're using the natural resources here of the regions you control to really sort of try and boost France's prestige, their economy. And if you use this right, if you keep yourself sort of out of any immediate wars, unless they're thrust upon you, and you can start sort of investing your money into the economy, especially in these sort of the colonies, as it were, in America and the Caribbean, it really will pay dividends, specifically down the line, further down the line in the campaign, where it will give you a massive injection of money, of gold. And with gold, of course, we have armies, we have the navies, which not only to defend France, and it's in its interests, but also to attack and take on your enemies, because you've got some very powerful enemies. Even though France is part of the sort of triumvirate of sort of behemoth titan nations, Britain, France and Spain, which you start off with, you really can find yourself in quite a lot of difficulty unless you play the sort of diplomatic card very close to your chest at the start and use what you have here, and also sort of assign and have in your mind a strategy of where you want to build your empire from. Do you want to build it from Europe outwards, expanding outwards, or do you want to build it from sort of the Americas and the Caribbean, and then sort of have France sort of benefiting from the sort of the empire you build in America? So in other words, the sort of the gold and the influence and the power fluctuates from America outwards to France, and so France can build itself up on the back of what you do in America and in the Caribbean. And of course you've got the Windward Islands here. Problem with the Windward Islands is this: you're trapped between two pirate islands. And straight away you've got an abundant yield here of sugar. I think sugar might be pretty high on the list here. Well, yeah, 15. Not bad, not brilliant, but not bad at all. Actually one of the best. Of course spices and ivory are going to give you a huge amount here. But sugar definitely is sort of a real delicacy back in the day. And you've also got here Martinique. You probably need to get basic roads up here running. Get colonial militia, but again, if you get the governor's residence, you're going to start increasing here. Yeah, we can actually increase this 2 more. You can upgrade this 2 more times to make this really sort of maybe even to be able to get colonial line infantry from here. And of course you've got the port here at Barbados, and again bringing quite a lot, actually 450, because of this here, because of the abundant yield in sugar. So again, but be very wary here. The pirates will attack Barbados. It really is an absolute, you know, a viper's nest here with Trinidad and Tobago and the Leeward Islands. So if you want to invest in the Caribbean down here, you're going to have to sort of probably invest in some military sort of assets, i.e. a decent navy, and also some maybe an army, 2 armies to be able to take out these islands. You would actually be in control of this sort of juncture here in the Caribbean. The Caribbean Sea from here all the way to sort of, you know, the New Andalusia here in New Spain would be under your control, your influence. And last but not least is French Guiana here. And it really can bring in a lot of money. This gold mine here, 1800. If you build this gold mine, it's going to give you 1800 to the town, to the region's wealth. A massive boost here. And again, 380 here from Sinnamary. And you've also got spices. Look at that. Even a low yield spices. But look at the cost. The price of spices, 20. One of the highest you can get here for the world market is 20 for spices. You definitely want to get this plantation up running. Look at that, 31 pounds of spices per produce each turn is going to bring you a massive profit, massive amount of profit. But again, you want to get up this governor's residence here, because it will give you access to these troops to be able to defend this region here, especially against the Dutch, who probably may not be that happy with you being sort of the nearest neighbour. But it also gives you opportunity if something happens to France, beg your pardon, to the Dutch, the Netherlands, back in Europe. So say for example Amsterdam was to fall to maybe the Spanish or another nation, this would automatically become rebel, and then you would merely move your troops into Dutch Guiana, and you would have access to the sort of timber yards here. You'd have sugar plantation here, you'd have a gold mine up here as well, you'd have a gem minefield up here, and you'd also have the port here of Demerara here, which Demerara sugar is pretty much, you know, what that is after. So Demerara here, and you'd have access to this Dutch Guiana as well, bringing in a massive, these 2 regions alone would bring in huge amounts of gold to France. It really would give a massive boost here. So these would actually be almost like a pocket economy by itself, a pocket gold producing sort of area of France, tucked out of the way, basically sort of right in the Amazon here, right on the sort of the edge of the Amazon here, tucked out of the way, just next to the sea here in the West Atlantic Ocean. And look how short the trade line is back to France. It is so short. It's just a quick hop and a skip through here and you're back into France. Although it's thousands of miles in sort of real time, as it were, look how close it is. And also you're probably going to need to be able to put a fleet in here to be able to guard this from pirates, because unless you take the pirates out quickly and early, they will harass you horrifically here, and then so will your enemies. So that's pretty much given us the sort of the regions and the territory. And also you've got here an ally down here, my friends, of Louisiana. They have Upper and Lower Louisiana, staunch allies of yours. I've actually got some pretty good units here. I must be fair. Wooden fort. What's that? Fort Prudhomme. We've got Upper Louisiana here. Fort de Chartres. Not bad at all, actually. But again, if I'm not mistaken, they could be at war with the Cherokee, or have I mistaken here? The Cherokee. They're different. Are they at war with anybody? No, actually the trade partner is Louisiana, so that's actually very good. So again, you've got Louisiana, you've got this sort of, almost this barrier, this buffer between yourself and the Pueblo nations and the Spanish here. The new Spain. Of course, Spain have got Florida. But these are the gentlemen you have to watch out for. 13 colonies. This is going to be your biggest threat here. Let me just quickly look here at France. They're at war with, of course, we're not at war with anybody else. Got some good trade partners with Spain. We're allies with Spain, which is definitely useful because Spain will probably help you against the 13 colonies, if I am not mistaken. Yeah, they probably join the war. If you're, they're at war with quite a few here, Spain. So Florida is definitely under threat here. But you know, 13 colonies in the Americas is going to be your biggest sort of problem in terms of the support it receives from Britain. Of course, Britain have got Rupert Land here, and of course that's just across the way here from Montreal and Quebec. So again, to keep a firm eye on what the British are doing, maybe send up your missionary here to keep an eye on the British, or indeed keep sending down here to keep an eye on the 13 colonies. You've already started off with a fleet here, not too bad but not brilliant either. So you definitely want to look at increasing your fleet as quickly as possible. But my main advice would be is to get the economy, decide where you want your economy to be based. Because remember, if you're going to rely on the economy being here in the Americas, your trade lines will be susceptible to piracy, to being raided, your ports will be blockaded. You are going to be throwing a lot of your weight, a lot of your military weight into here just to keep your sort of trade lines, your ports open. It's going to cost you a lot in terms of naval power. So you have to really decide where you want sort of your economy to be based, is it, with your main income? Because then when you decide where you want that to be, if it's going to be in Europe, again, you've got to build up the fleet and the troops to be able to defend your European assets, and vice versa. If you want America to be, sorry my friends, if you want America to be your main sort of economic sort of hub, as it were, then again you need to invest in the fleets and the armies to defend your assets there as well. Now, I think it's probably best now if we look at our diplomatic relations with everybody else. Austria, unfriendly with you, not horrifically unfriendly, and there's a chance that if you sort of get trade with them, that will change their stance towards you. Again, Great Britain, unfriendly, not massively unfriendly, but still, if you can get trade with them, that might pacify them for a few years. Remember, Great Britain is probably your biggest sort of threat because of the sheer location of where it is. It's right next to you. It's across the English Channel, and they could be raiding your main port here, giving you endless amounts of trouble. My advice to you would be to invest maybe in getting 2 fifth rates up immediately, absolutely as quickly as you possibly could here, and invest and get maybe even 3, and having Le Havre here guarded at all times by a fleet you've got here. This is not actually a bad fleet at all. This is a pretty good fleet to start with. Compared to the British fleet, it's much better than the British fleet. But do not start a war with Britain unless you are absolutely sure you can win it, or at least tie Britain down by cutting off all of their sort of ports and keeping them sort of pinned into Britain. Do not start wars you cannot finish, my friends. You don't want to, especially early on. Especially with France, if you give yourself time, if you play the diplomatic game very with a bit of nous about you, it will pay dividends in the long run, believe me. So again, Britain can become quite a powerful trading partner. It really can, if you just give it time. And the more time that goes by without any sort of friction between you, the more their attitude changes towards you, the more they sort of become more friendly, a bit warmer towards you, and that will definitely pay dividends in the end, especially with trade. So again, got Great Britain here at war. Again, their allies are pretty powerful as well. So if you go to war with Britain, you're going to drag in Austria, Hanover, which is pretty close to you anyway here. Then you've got the Dutch, which are even closer. And then again, you've got Portugal, again, right down by here next to Spain. So again, be very careful. And again, you've got a lot of trading options here. My sort of main trading partners I would immediately go for would be Great Britain, because the location, you want to keep them on your side, and probably the Mughal and the Marathas, because whoever wins the wars here will give a massive boost to your trade. It really will. The Ottoman Empire as well, again, they are a massive empire to start with, and again, their trade can be exceptionally valuable to you. Prussia are unfriendly, not massively unfriendly, but again, if you get Prussian sort of trade, that's not too bad. Look at that. 13 colonies is friendly. So if you can get trade with the 13 colonies, that means the colonies, the sort of the regions you have in America are going to benefit directly from the land link you have with the 13 colonies. So straight away, maybe tactically you want to have Great Britain and the 13 colonies as your first trading partners. And then if you've got any more room left in your ports, then you can maybe have the Maratha and Mughal. Remember, look at it purely from who is going to give you the most trade in terms of how much you can send to them to get money from them. So they want your goods to go to that nation to get the most money out of them. So think about the size of the empire and what they can pay you, what they can give you in terms of trade, back and forth, but mainly what you can send to them to get money from them. So tactically, it would be for me Britain first, but also Britain can give you a lot back as you're quite short distance from Britain. Then it would be 13 colonies because of what is happening in the Americas. If you've got the 13 colonies as a sort of friendly and you're trading with them, that will keep them occupied and also give you time to build up all your assets there from the money coming from the 13 colonies. And sort of secondly, as it were, I would go for Mughal and Maratha, because then you've got you're hedging your bets. Whoever wins the war in India here is going to be your trade partner no matter what happens. So you're going to be able to get a huge, especially the Mughal. If the Mughal beat the Marathas, you can have a massive boost there because India is so rich. It is staggeringly rich, whoever takes over the entirety of India. So you're going to be benefiting from that. And of course you've got the minor nations as well, but always be careful, have a look at who your sort of main enemies are, who might turn into an enemy. And Persia, definitely Persia. Persia are quite wealthy, very, very wealthy actually. So maybe look at Persia as well. Look at the Middle East because they are very, very sort of well established. They have a lot of sort of, ivory, spices, those type of things you can bring into the country, but they also want a lot of things from you as well. Particularly sort of the goods they can't produce, they will take off you. Furs, for example, they will definitely take the furs off you. So again, look at your diplomatic nation, but look at where they are and what you can get out of them and what will it give you in diplomatic sort of terms in the long run. And again, you start off with 10,000, which is actually one of the best starting sort of amounts you start with. Any nation, 10,000, you can do a lot with that. And let's have a look now at our sort of spectacular prosperity, sublime prestige rank here, really are. And the tax income is not too bad. The army upkeep is pretty high, but that is because of the sheer amount of regions you have. Navy upkeep is pretty high, but again the trade is nearly as much as our tax income. But again, I also try and get my tax income to paying for the army. At the moment it is. So you've got 13,000 coming in, and you've got 5,000, just over 5,000 going out. So it means you've got 7,500 per turn coming in, which again is exceptional for the start of this. So it means if you were to leave that 10,000 as it were, and you let that 7,000 roll in, you'd almost have 20,000 gold in the bank in the second sort of year, which is just giving you so much sort of potential for both army and sort of, increasing the amount of money you can make from the sort of different towns and the villages and the mines you can upgrade and make. So again, you're in a fantastic financial position, but again, keep an eye on the army upkeep here. It is pretty high at the moment, but you always want your tax income, if possible, to be paying for your army, and that way the trade income then is always on it. And also, if you can get these two being paid for by the tax income, then basically all the trade coming into you is profit. So if you were, say for example, you had 10,000 army upkeep and 5,000 navy upkeep, and your tax income was 20,000 or 15 or 16,000, that means the tax income is paying for these. And say you had then, for example, 20,000 coming in from the trade, 20,000 would be clear profit for you, including also on other on top. So that's what you want to be doing, is trying to get your tax income paying for these two things here. Policies, of course, you can up your tax and lower your tax depending on how you think the different regions are performing, how happy they are. At the moment they're all pretty happy with how things are at the moment. Your ministers, vitally important. Your monarch here is absolutely fantastic. Look at that, +1 diplomatic relations, +1 prestige, wonderful. Look at that, your chief minister is incredible. The diplomatic relations are so good because of these two gentlemen. And look at the treasury, it is absolutely mind-boggling. The Controller General of Finances, +3 global bonus to global tax income, +6 bonus to growth trade and trade route income, +6 to town wealth. Wonderful minister, really is fantastic. Now the Chancellor here to Justice, not good at all. Now luckily an absolute monarchy, so again you can just change them as you see fit here. Justice I would take a look at changing for definite. Then you've got the army here, brilliant army. Louis Letellier, Lord Secretary of the Army, -4 recruitment cost, +4 to land material technology research rate, and a -4 upkeep cost. Brilliant, brilliant Secretary of War. And again for the Navy, equally as good, not quite as brilliant, but still fantastic. Really a strategist as well. Look at that, +2 management. France really is an absolutely wonderful nation to start with. If you've never played Empire Total War at all before, it really does give you the sort of the backbone of a really significant nation to start with. So again, I would probably change Justice here. Who do we have here? Industrial Revolutionary, Status Quo, Pious, and Agrarian. Then we have Tactician, probably the army, yes indeed. We're looking for someone who might have an additional maybe a trait for justice here. Pious and a stallholder. We have stallholder and status quo. I would probably move this gentleman here, Jean-Baptiste Soma, into here. Straight away, you've got +1 repression, -3 to town costs, the town watch, and +1 to maximum repression bonus. Again, you've already sort of increased your sort of repression, keeping the sort of nation, the people under control, as it were, and also lowered the cost of town. Again, here in America is not a brilliant here at all. So because America is so important to you, it definitely would prove worth maybe changing one of these gentlemen here into a stallholder. Is pretty good here, and Pious. So I would probably put this one, Lance Rapp, into there. It doesn't change anything, but you can always keep, because you have new ministers, new candidates soon. So again, once you end that turn, you can always move different people in and out of the as you see fit. So again, you can keep changing them until you get what you want, basically. And then you will have a new candidates changing all the time. Now trade. Got Louisiana, 840. Savoy, 934. Excellent. Spain, massive, massive trade partner. And then Sweden, who even bigger. Look at that. So as I told you, furs are massive. Absolutely massive for you. They really are. Europe will eat furs up all day long. They will absolutely buy everything you've got because they love the furs. So definitely look at, taking those furs and increasing the fur traders as quickly as you possibly can there. Expansion. Where do we expand? As I said to you, look at probably America being your main sort of base of expansion. Unless a war as it develops in Europe, which you get dragged into, or might threaten you. They might have a war here with some of these other nations here that might threaten French interests, in which case, personally if it was me and I saw maybe Austria starting to take over Dresden, Munich, that sort of, these type of areas. Personally, because if you look at France, the allies here, personally if it was me, I would probably move in against Stuttgart, Rhineland and Hanover pretty quickly if it was me. Sort of, gaining sort of this buffer here between France. The main thing is to keep France, alive and keep France safe at all costs. So to do that, you want to create maybe a buffer zone. If you see the wars here starting to encroach nearer and nearer to your lands here to France, Paris, France must be protected at all costs. If that means fighting sort of wars here with these sort of smaller nations to be able to give you that buffer, then my friends, you must try and do that if possible. You really must try and give yourself that freedom here. And even if that means going into Amsterdam, or even if the Dutch take Brussels from the Spanish and you have to declare war on the Dutch allied with, let's have a quick look here, United Provinces. Their allies are Britain and Austria. So again, you'd have to be very careful against the Dutch unless they declared war upon you, in which case you would probably, but my advice would be go for these smaller nations here, take them over and give you that, specifically Rhineland and Württemberg, if they begin that sort of, you see sort of your enemies here, or potential enemies here, starting to encroach and get nearer to France. Of course, you've got Spain down here as an ally of yours, so you've already got sort of this sort of south down here pretty well covered with by Spain. We'll probably take Morocco and Tangier eventually, and they've got quite a lot of sort of pull here in the Mediterranean. as you where you expand in Europe, as I said, you can probably head eastwards. Down south here, maybe not. Maybe look at the Barbary States, but that's quite a long way away. If you really want a real sort of, if you want to really test yourself, if you really want to think to yourself, my overall plan in say 10 years, and say maybe, or maybe in 5 years, say by 1705 or maybe 1710, I want to invade Britain. That really would be, you know, something that you could really look at doing, but you must be prepared for the long haul fight here, specifically against their allies, Austria and the Netherlands. They will come after you pretty vigorously, believe me. So look who Britain's allies are. Yeah, Hanover, United Provinces, Portugal and Austria. So you've got to be ready for that fight here, especially with Portugal just around the corner here. Hanover here as well. They will send ships to block and hit you. So remember, if you're going to take Britain on, you must be prepared militarily and economically to be able to take that hit. And of course you've got the fleets here. You've already got a small fleet down here in the Mediterranean. You've got a fleet here in the English Channel. If you increase these and sort of expand slowly but surely, you know, really keep yourself focused on what your goals are overall. And again, you start off with not too bad armies here at all. Look at that general. Claude de Villiers, absolutely a magnificent general, really is. So again, you probably want to pull this gentleman back towards Paris and start building an army around him. A really good army around him. And of course, you want to, you know, get your infrastructure up as quickly as possible, get cobble roads to increase trade and speed and movement on the map here. Construction, of course, you know, get all the construction you can up here. Imperial Palace not yet. That's 6,000. That's quite a lot to invest. That really is a huge amount to invest. But look at that, you get Berkeley's regiment from there. And again, you can increase your naval board and that once you've got the research. And of course, research is vital. You've only got Orleans here, so you really want to try and sort of target your research. I look for military. Personally, I always go for military first. I get plug bayonet, and then I go down to ring bayonet, and then I get military syllabus. They're the three I always focus on. Because as soon as you've got military syllabus, you can then open up drill school. Look what drill school gives you. Grenadiers, Chevaulegers, Line Infantry, 10th E Flanders, Estrange. Look at these. 81st Regiment, Chartres, Line Infantry. All these wonderful units here. These absolutely, you know, elite regiments, absolutely elite regiments that the French are able to get here. As soon as you start upgrading these, as soon as you start improving the research, and of course you go down to military academy, that gives you even better. Look at these. Royal Guard, General Bodyguard, French East India Company. You've then got cuirassiers, which are heavy cavalry, which are absolutely fantastic. Royal Ecossais. Oh my God, Bennett, look at that. Royal Dupois Regiment. Oh my goodness me, that is wonderful. Look at those. They're actually not be brilliant, but look at that. That is absolutely spectacular. You've got look at French. Look how many units France. Grenadiers de France, elite troops here. Oh my goodness me, look how many troops you can get here from France. I mean, it's mouth watering. It really is. Then we go to the army board, which is going to give you even more troops. Tirailleurs. Oh my God. Gendarmerie de France, elite French cavalry, the finest troops you'll find probably anywhere, right up there with Spanish troops in terms of elite units. And then last but not least, Army Staff College. Look at this Republican Guard, and even all of them coming. Oh my God, it really is just a wonderful sight to see. Look at that, Garde Corps. Oh, staggering amount of troops you can get. So if you play as France, focus your research on where you want. Personally, I would be down to plug bayonet, then ring bayonet, then military syllabus, because it opens up, once you get military syllabus, it starts opening up a huge amount of what you can get here. Then I usually focus on farm, and then I usually start moving into, because you've already got physocracy here, it's probably social contract. It's pretty good. Increases the research rate 15%. Empiricism here, not too bad, but again, you get that as sort of a luxury. And then I would sort of start moving down to here, maybe start getting basic steam pump, things like that, as soon as you start increasing. But military is usually the one I aim for the most, specifically sort of the army. And then navy is sort of not an afterthought, but I sort of put navy on the back burner because I'm looking to fight on the land, unless of course you're looking to focus on America, in which case the navy will be very, very important. But anyway, friends, that is where I'm going to end this here. This is sort of a brief overview of what you can do and where you can probably, how you can sort of start with France. I would definitely recommend France as a sort of a starting nation, up there with Britain, because of course Britain is isolated. So again, you can sort of you can play Britain quite isolated, quite away from many of the fights here, many of the problems. You don't get many nations attacking Britain. But again, France, if you want to start the campaign, you're new to Empire Total War, France is definitely a very good start. You get excellent amount of money, excellent amount of territory, wonderful troops to be able to get in the future. You've got a lot of allies, a lot of people are okay with you because of your leader is excellent and diplomatic, and so is your first minister. So I hope you've enjoyed this, my friends. Hope you've enjoyed this little guide I've done here. If any of you are playing France at the moment, or want to play France, or are looking to play France, if you please let me know. Put it down in the comment section. Let's get sort of spreading that little bit, that sort of that information here, so we can pool that information where everybody can enjoy it. But until next time, my friends, and I hope you're having a all good weekend. But until next time, my friends, bye for now.